There are simplistic bourgeois ideas about what causes rage in such communities. Ultimately, they're not kind views, they're self-serving views. A simplistic, naive, self-serving urban bourgeois view of these things is partly what's under attack, not just in this book, but by the historical circumstances we're in right now. The jig is up, basically, on perpetuating a view that one's own niceness can be legitimately projected onto other people who may spit it back at us. Now, I was born here. This is the town of niceness, of course, Melbourne. Just ask Barry Humphries. I'm fourth generation Port Melbourne, so we didn't start out too nice. But I'm afraid that was the idealism that succeeded the Christian idealism of the missionaries. This was second wave idealism on the frontier. That has now come to its end, in my view. The true idealists of the early 70s, which included us and many others, many from Melbourne who went out to Melbourne's outback, which is Alice Springs, and had done so. Artists had begun to do so since the 1920s, and others followed. This really is the ultimate twist in colonialism, to drag up a rather outmoded word. And the only way to, I think, really juggle the bits and allow them to fall a bit more naturally and to come to grips with these issues deeply is to start with candour, honesty, avoid ideology, rely on experience, don't rely on endless hope for things that obviously don't work and which are rubbish, and go back to basics, bedrock questions. Should there be racially segregated communities persisting in Australia with taxpayers' funding? Yes or no? Okay, it's not an easy question, but I think a bit of crudity might be useful. My answer is no.
Now, in Melbourne, where you say people are terribly nice, they're nice because they believe fantasies, you know, and it's difficult for people to imagine what this little community Arakoon on the coastline of Western Cape York is like. It's difficult to imagine for people who've never been into these outback communities just what you mean exactly when you use the phrase black ghetto and you talk about racially segregated communities. The fantasy here is that, this is the world of the noble savages where all the Aborigines are happy and this is where the real Aborigines are, and you know, they don't quite run around in our national dress, a piece of string, but, they wear dashing black hats and Cuban heel cowboy boots, and people imagine that there's some kind of hope and future for them. But I just want you to spell out precisely what you mean by your prognosis that there is no future for the racially segregated communities like Arakoon and the hundreds of others out there. What is the future then? What do you mean that there is no future for the racially segregated community? What happens now?
My starting point in thinking about this is not to start with the politically active adults and their rights, interests, hopes and ambitions. My starting point is a 3-year-old girl. That's the person with no future there.